Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now, let the stories begin. Excited for today and beyond thrilled to introduce you to this amazing gift of a friend that I believe I was given many years ago from God. And so it is a joy to introduce you all to my amazing friend, dear colleague, and probably unbeknownst to us, prayer partner out there, Kent Williams. Kent, thank you for being here, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Holly. I am so excited. And let me just say, I am so humbled that you asked me to be on. And I'm so happy to share what things have happened in my life, what God's done in my life, and just to talk to you, because you are my sensei, as I always say. You have taught me so much and helped me in ways both directly and indirectly. So thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you are just, I can hear, you can, and I know everybody listening right now can, Kent, it's like the infectious smile and energy and joy you bring when you walk in a room. And I can feel it through the phone right now. It's like, here we go. I like my Monday Madness. This is my Monday Miracle and Monday Madness right now.
Okay. All right. And I just have to tell you, because I hear it in your voice too, so I'm just going to feed off of that. And I've always fed off positive vibes of people and yeah, it's just an excitement that comes with it. And age has kind of made me a little calmer, which kind of is scary when you think about it, because if this is Kent calm, what is it when he's really excited, right?
Well, yeah, I'm a little scared now because I have seen you get pretty excited, but it's like, Well, and this is why, it was like when it came over me, I'm like, I've got to have you. I want to have you on the show. I want to celebrate you. And I also believe that the way you show up in this world, Kent, as a human being, as a man, as a father, as a friend, as all of those things, as a husband, and really specifically how you've chosen to lead others. I'm like, me, I'm passionate about the privilege and the honor of leading other people. So let's start with the current Kent, and then we'll go, because I don't know the story behind the story. So tell us all about what you're doing now and your passion around leading others.
Okay. Well, currently I serve as a team leader in an organization called Thomson Reuters that I feel incredibly blessed to be a part of. I work for incredible bosses who are very supportive and helpful of me. And what I do is, I'm at that second tier line where those individuals who are starting their careers come in our department, which is product support. And so they're coming in and they're doing a lot of work in terms of answering calls from our clients and customers. But we also spend a lot of time in terms of developing individuals to kind of move to where their long-term goals is. In fact, one of the things that I tell my team members when they start under me is my goal isn't to keep you under me. My goal is to get you from here to there. And here is kind of where you're starting, whether it be someone who's in their very first job to someone who's coming in, 10, 12 years in the workforce and just looking for a change and trying to understand where their destination point is. If they don't know where that destination, then we start working towards finding what that might look like. And then if you do have a certain destination, how can I help? So I ask a lot of questions. I do a lot of guidance. And I try not to impose or to be judgmental. That's a huge part, I think, of why I've been doing well in my job role. But, there are certain times, obviously, when you have to make people perform, you're going to push some envelopes and stretch some minds a little bit to try to get them to move from point A to point B. So it's just such a great opportunity for me. And I've done this role for, 16, 17 years now.
Yeah.
But it never gets old, Holly. And that's the amazing thing about it. I just truly feel like God put me in this place for a reason. And it's been fascinating to see a number of people and watch them grow over the decade plus period of time. Some people have gone on to be managers in our organization. Some of them have gone on to be managers in other organizations. But the overall key was they all come back to me and appreciated the fact that I was looking for, again, moving them from that here to there analogy, and they're doing wonderful things outside of what I've done with them.
Oh, and I'm just listening to you and I'm just sitting here smiling, as I always do when I'm just full of joy. And, when you think about how long you've been doing this and you can hear the joy coming through your voice, it just came through me right now that there's a lot of people, Kent, that, let's just face it, you don't go into life, whether it's higher education or not, or into the workforce or whatever. Most people don't go in to their career going, I just want to be a team leader. They end up becoming a team leader because they become very good in sales. And then they're asked to lead other sales teams or engineering or IT or recruiting. So what's your secret sauce, for a team leader? Let's just speak as though we have right now in this moment, people listening, and there are people in 87 countries all over the world who I'm just so grateful that listen to this show. If they're new or maybe not new, maybe they just need to be re-energized and they're a team leader. What are the one or two greatest pieces of wisdom right now that you could share with people to take that, understand that privilege that they have and what that secret sauce is that you think's helped you really continue down this path and helping others grow? What advice would you give to them?
Oh my gosh. One is an old one, and then I would say one is a new one. The old one that I've always believed in is you've got to love what you do. There's just no substitute for that. One of the things that I spent a lot of time, and I learned something from you, was in kind of understanding what my strengths were and being able to explain those and utilize them in a way that brings the passion to my job. One of the things that I am a huge person. I'm a huge people person, and people kind of think about, well, everyone says they're a people person. In fact, one of my colleagues that has taught me is like, yeah, everyone says that, right? But one of the things is that I really try not to focus on myself. And I'll give you the term, the servant leader.
Oh, Kent, I just had that written down under your name. I wrote down as you were talking, servanthood leadership. Oh, Kent. Yeah. Oh, that's you.
So, yeah, that comes from, I think from my Christian perspective, reading Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren was very instrumental in that, in the phrase that really kind of explained most of like the first 35, 40 years of my life was that phrase is, it's not about you. And when you think about that, your goal as a leader is not to get claim and accolades. Your goal is to help others lead. And by doing that, it is then that you get those things that come with it. So, it's kind of like, something I learned this weekend. I was actually at a leadership event, and it talked about how an individual should be focused primarily on serving the customer and secondarily of what you get from that relationship. And I think leadership is particularly with the group that you lead is very similar. You've got to be able to help them meet their needs and their wants and their ambitions and dreams. And then from there, the things that come back is, people give you the positive feedback. You're hearing all of a sudden, your boss is telling you, yeah, so-and-so came by and told me that they were really impressed with what you did. And I just am a firm believer in that. That's how I am.
Well, I love it. It's so you, Kent. And I'm sorry, I'm still smiling because I was writing as we were first starting our chat, servanthood leader with an exclamation point. I believe that is exactly how you show up in this world, my friend. And to hear you actually use those words when you said, what are the two things, when I asked you the two things, it starts with, are you serving others? And you truly live that. And I think there isn't a leader, or let's say manager out there, or how about just any human being? It doesn't, I mean, you and I both agree on this. You don't need a title to lead others. The reality is, how are we showing up in the world? Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I gave you one. So the other one that I really focus on, and this is one that I've learned probably over the last 5-6 years, there's a way of coaching, and coaching is a huge part of being a leader. But there are two questions that a coach must always ask. And these two, over these years, have just made such a monumental improvement in my own leadership to others. It really focuses on these two questions. What do you, how do I say it? What do you want and how can I help?
What do you want and how can I help?
Yes.
Simple.
Simple. It sounds simple, right? But when you think of your conversations that you have with team members and the struggles and the challenges that they have, we get into those, at times, that mindset of, here's what you need to do this, do this, do this. But we don't spend a lot of time asking them what they're dealing with. What are they struggling with? What parts of this goal seem to be the challenging part? How do you feel about it? So, what is it that you truly want to get out of this? Do you really want to stay in this department? Do you really want to eventually become a vice president? What is it that you want? And then once we have a clear understanding of what it is that we truly want, then we move forward to how can the leader help you get there? And it goes again right back to that move from here to there. Analogy is that you really can't know where there is until that individual tells you. And once you get to that, then you can start to give some insight. Here's some of the things that they need from you. And then at times, once you see something that might be missing or something that they haven't considered, then that's where the coaching comes in and saying, have you considered this? Or do you mind if I throw this in? Would that be okay? And then share that. And then they can make that decision for themselves. But again, it's those two questions I just think are so important, and I can't overemphasize those enough. And
they're so profound and yet simple, right? If we just think about the simplicity of those questions, this is not rocket science, gang. This is actually really common sense, but for many of us, it's not common practice. And I love the way you just articulated it, because as you were saying the first question, Kent, and I don't want anyone to miss this that's listening, what do you want? It sounds, again, so simple. And how many people truly do not have a clear vision of what they want? How can you expect others to help you? And I'm really passionate about inspiring women and men. And one of the 3 pillars that I really spend a lot of time focusing on, you'll love this. The first one is clarity. Second is grace. And third is courage, right? It's like clarity is, you gotta know where you're going if you want to have anyone help you get there. And especially as a leader, to what you just said, what do you want? I can't help you get somewhere if you don't know what you want.
Exactly. And I mean, I have a number of members on my team that, are at that point where they're just unsure of what it is. And it's okay to be there at that point, but you've got to start making progress. I had a really interesting conversation, believe it or not, with my son yesterday. And we were having this kind of discussion. And again, it always circles back to, okay, Jermaine, I asked them, all right, I know you've got these plans, but what is it that you really want? And, he wants to be involved in business. He says, I want to be involved in accounting. And he had a bunch of other things. And that was great that he had a lot of ambition about a number of things. But I said, I want you to be careful. You're saying a lot of things that you want, but it's not really what you want, you know. So you need to be, you know, it goes to that very first point that you brought up of clarity. You know, it's to kind of narrow it down. And if you've got multiple things that you want, but not a lot of time, then you need to start making some moves to start down one of those paths. And I tell them, you know, it's okay to go down the wrong path. What's not okay is not to move and to be stuck in the rut. You know, that analysis paralysis type situation.
Oh, and don't we know? And you know, you're like, okay, you're still in those younger years of life, right? It's like if you could take from the wisdom that some of us have gained, right? You know, Absolutely. And it's fascinating. You just said something. So Kent, let's to this moment in this conversation with your son, which I love, and anybody out there that's a parent is probably relating to this as we speak. And you know, that clarity, and tell me if you agree with this. I feel like what so many of us struggle with, and it does start, I mean, who knows how young this starts in our lifetime. I think where there's, like you just said, you have all these things you want. The clarity comes from letting go of what you think other people want from you.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is so huge. One of the biggest growth steps in my own life was I had wonderful parents, my mother and my father. My dad's passed away, but my mom's thankfully still with us. But in the early years of my career, my mom told me that I was great at math and that I should be an accountant. And so that was the voice that was in my head for roughly nearly 30 years, because I was really good at numbers. Yes, you know, I was actually interested in the field of accounting, but after a while of trying to do that, I started to notice something was happening. It was that I could never really stay in that kind of job role longer than 2 to 3 years. And I kept thinking to myself, well, maybe there's not enough growth in this organization, or, you know, maybe I don't like my boss. You know, we all have these various different kinds of conversations in our head. And really it took an aha moment where it was ironically where I was interviewing for another accounting role. And so I had a headhunter that was helping me in my search, and I went through the interview. I tend to always interview well, so I wasn't really concerned about the interview itself. So I get the phone call from the recruiter, and they tell me I've got good news and I've got bad news. And I love to end conversations on a positive note.
Me too. So oh my gosh, I do the same thing. Start with the bad, end with the good.
Yeah. Give me the bad.
Yeah.
So he tells me, well, Kent, you didn't get the job. So I'm saying to myself, what good could possibly come out of this? And then the words that came out that changed my world forever. He said, Kent, they love your personality. They think you're great. You know, you're authentic. They want to interview you for a customer service manager position. And that was the last time I ever looked for an accounting job.
Oh, I love this story so much. I love this. And the difference is you were willing to listen. Yes. You were willing to listen and not think and put yourself back in that box with the old programming in our heads, right? Well, I really should stay in accounting. I really should stay where I'm good with math. Like you were willing to listen to something greater than you, open up an opportunity that became the rest of your life of using your strengths, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so literally the very next interview was one for a headhunter job role, and the other one is for the job that I now supervise team members for here at Thomson Reuters. So I go through the interview, I get hired, and then 2-3 years later, I become a team leader, and I am just yeah, I'm just so humbled to be here, and the team that I work with, and my boss, who I just love, and I have to give him a shout out because I think he's the best boss ever.
Oh, you are so
his name is
sweet.
David Griffin.
Well, I might have to have David on the show now. Now that you're shouting out for David.
Oh my gosh, I would love for you to interview him. He's such a wonderful man, inside and out, and I just think the world of him. He's taught me so much over the years.
Oh, I love that you just gave that. Isn't that what life is about? Why do I have a show called Celebration of You? I'd spend the rest of my life celebrating amazing people and just giving people an opportunity to have the light shown on them. And that's what we need to do more of. And it's not just shining the light on the people working for us or around us. How about the people we're working that, celebrate up what you just did? We could learn from that. All right, I got to ask you this because we're on a roll and you just took me to a path that I wanted to go down.
Okay.
And that is, I'm sitting here going, I can't wait because I have no idea the story that I might hear. I want to take you to, this remarkable energy, faith, all this amazing goodness that has made you who you are. Take us back to your earlier days. And maybe this goes back to as a young boy, maybe it's early education years. I don't know. What would you attribute, or maybe it's later in life, but has there been that monumental, pivotal moment in your life, Kent, that maybe brought you to your knees? Maybe it was some extreme adversity. Maybe it was is there something that has really been pivotal in your life that you could share with us?
Gosh, yeah, I love all my children. So I have 2 daughters and 1 son. And I have 8 grandchildren. So they're all fantastic. But really the pivotal moment that happened in my entire life was just before my oldest daughter was born. So there is a stereotype, of course, way back when you're a teen parent. Because I had my daughter just before my 20th birthday. So technically I was still a teen.
Okay.
So the pressures of becoming a parent just before you're 20 years old, you could go a number of different dark paths of, leaving school and just working and being on an assembly line, which is, again, I'm not being critical of the work, but I think my parents had an expectation for me that, they looked at that and said, Kent, you need to do college, you need to get a job, be a manager, all these types of things. And so having a child come into my world just before my 20th birthday was a huge challenge. But the biggest thing that I got out of it is she taught me more about humility and loving and living for something bigger than yourself. Because I would say before I was 19 years old, it was pretty me-centric. It was, Kent's got to do this. Kent wants to be this. Mom, get me that,
Oh, yes. Okay.
but it was interesting because after about 2 or 3 years of having her, my friends were talking to me and said, Kent, what's up with you? And I said, nothing. What? And what it was is that there was a little child that was just coming to me constantly over while I was having a conversation with them. And I put a focus on that child and said, oh, what do you need? Here you go. And they noticed the level of calm and patience that had all of a sudden evolved in me over that time. And that was such a huge, shift in my life. And I've carried that pretty much all the way to today, and again, when I read the book by Rick Warren, I mean, that's 20, 30 years ago, or 20, 30, not even 20, 30 years, I would say 10, 20 years ago. But that whole thing started with that moment of me becoming a dad and it really not being about myself. And I look at that as a huge turning point, and I'm forever grateful for that time. So, God works in mysterious ways. He knows just what you need when you need it, even though you don't think you do.
Oh, that is so true, isn't it? Even when you think, no, this can't be. No.
Yeah, it's like, teen dad, oh my, do you know the stereotypes that are going to be said about me? Oh, my life is over. And here I am, just happy and wonderful wife, wonderful life, wonderful children and grandchildren. And here I am talking to you. Yeah, God always has a plan bigger than you see it.
And if you only knew, I'm listening to you with little tiny tears of joy. Because I don't know if you know this. Do you know that my oldest son it was a miracle, but became a father at 19? No, right before he was turning 20. Same exact.
Are you serious?
Yes, Kathy.
Wow.
And I watched Jacob. Oh, I get emotional. Jacob was also a cancer survivor, so we were told he'd probably never have kids. And so the timing, it was not easy. It was a very scary time for him. He was not ready to be a father, right? Like all those things of what's happening. I didn't expect this. And then the day he was in tears and he just looked up at me and he said, well, Mom, you always said when God closes one door, he opens another. He goes, could this be a miracle? Because I was told I may never be able to have kids.
Wow.
And Kent, to watch him step up to be a father and the love that young man, I have watched my son evolve into the most remarkable human being. And I always tell him, I'm more proud of you today. I don't care about the job and the money and all that. I'm more in awe of how you've become a father to that beautiful little boy, Eli. And so I'm just sitting here in awe because I had no idea. And I think I need to connect you two because I would love for him to meet you.
Oh my gosh, I'd be more than happy to. It's just so, it's fun. This thing called life is so fun. And I know that there's a lot of tough stuff that happens. Me and my wife, we've had our challenges that we've gone through. But I've gotten to this point, both of us have gotten to this point where it's just so much fun. There's this song that we recite to each other, and it says, "I'll love you till your hair turns gray. I'll still want you when you gain a little weight. No matter how we'll always be the same, just as long as your love doesn't change." And that's really kind of our philosophy on our marriage.
I love that. Oh, what great wisdom, and it's the fact that it's fun. If we can continue, life is not perfect, right? We're given all kinds of opportunities that some people look as like the ditch, right? Like, in the gloom. And it's like, and we can look up. And I say that because I know you and I both, that's why we're so aligned, is I always look at those ups and downs of life as gifts that were just unwrapped. And when you unwrap them, you go, look at who I am today because of that. I couldn't be doing this and talking to you today, Kent, and truly living the highest message of what my soul's here to do if it hadn't been through all this stuff.
Oh
right?
My gosh. Yes. The stuff is, as my pastor put it, it's the stuff that God puts through your life to help you grow into the person that he needs you to be. Yes. And so, I think of the stuff that I dealt with at 19, the things that I dealt with just before my wife and me got married, and the fact that our third child, we had adopted, and the challenges that come with that. And I just think of, oh my gosh, God, you're so good, because even when I don't think I need this in my life, then lo and behold, after I've gone through it, then comes another situation or a friend in need that is looking for me. And that's kind of, when you talk about showing up, one of the things that people have said about me is that I take, in fact, it's when I took a strengths assessment, as you know, years ago. But one of the things that I do is I take on the emotional baggage without giving them the judgment. and,
Oh, yes. Yep.
and I've done that for a number of years and realized that I bring that to my job because there are so many times we want our team members to perform and do things, but there are times where they can't. And we don't know initially why. We just see that they were exceeding for the previous 2 years, and now they're barely at achieved or maybe even below that. And you don't know why. And you reach out and say, hey, what's going on? And I love my team that they have trust in me, or maybe I've built that trust.
You've built that trust. Absolutely, you have, my friend. Oh, yes.
That they feel they can come to me and it's a safe environment. Yeah. And when we talk about trust, I hate to expand on this, but it's such an important topic as a leader. Is trust, I think, is the greatest currency you can have. And it fortunately is one of the hugest strengths that I've had or have been told that I have. But one thing that I've had with my team is I've told them that we can have a Vegas rules conversation anytime that they want. And that's really simple. It's like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So whatever happens in our conversation does not go beyond our conversation that we have. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be work related. It could be home related. But I make sure that they understand very clearly that they can trust in me, that I will hold their confidence.
Oh, I love that. And that is like the number one. People ask all the right? You hear this all the time in global corporations and from leaders all over. The biggest number one thing they want is, how do you build trust? And I love that again, Kent, the way you're leading is with such simplicity and with such grace and strength. It's that having conversations that give them permission to know it will stay in confidence. I mean, I just wonder how many people listening to this, can you hold yourself accountable as a leader to holding that same, right?
Gosh.
I mean, who knows?
Yes.
What a great tip to give people, though. Start there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Authenticity and holding yourself accountable. I mean, those two things are other. I mean, there's so many parts in the pyramid of making a great leader. But, when you talk about trust, I think holding yourself accountable, being authentic, and another thing, being self-aware. And this is something that my current boss has really helped me with a lot in kind of, I knew the things that I did well, and I knew the things that I didn't do well, but I wasn't always buying into all that and just saying, you know what, this is who I am, and once I started to kind of embrace all my true strengths as well as those things that I may not quite be as strong on, it just helped me immensely to be a leader because I could share that and I could tell people when things weren't quite going the right way and I need to have a conversation. I said, okay, we're going to talk about this. And I understand this area may not be my strongest area, but I can always point you to somewhere where someone is strong. And that also feeds into, once you're self-aware, surrounding yourselves with individuals that can help you compensate for those areas that you may not be the strongest at.
And that is the key to what successful teams look like. And we know, right, from all the work that we do. Well, I cannot wait to ask you this. We're going to wrap this up. And I love to ask my guests at the very last question. And I just feel like you have just dripped so much amazing wisdom and just so many wonderful nuggets that it's like I can't even fathom what will come out on this final question. But in 3 minutes or less, I want to know from Kent, go back to your young 20-year-old self. And I mean, I would normally say 25-year-old, but you had a pivotal moment at 20 that changed your life. When you look at that young man, that 20-year-old young man, what advice would you give him based on who you are and what you know today?
The best thing I could guess I would tell him is understand that there are many paths to success, and don't focus on what others tell you that path is. Figure that out for yourself. Go that route. And if you don't hit it right away, or if you find out a few years down the road that that's not the right path, that's okay. Because you just keep moving. Trust in God. Realize that you are not perfect. Because I think the biggest challenge that I had, that stopped me from being as faith-driven as I am today, was the fact that I felt like I had to be as perfect as everyone else. A big thing that I've learned that someone told me years ago that is just one of the most fascinating self-awareness tips is stop comparing your behind the scenes with everyone else's front stage production.
Ooh, that's a good one. Ooh, say that again. I love that.
Stop comparing your behind the scenes with everyone else's front stage production. Because everyone behind the scenes has mess going on just like you. But they put on the front stage production, and that's what we try to compare our lives to. We're thinking, oh my gosh, they've got this. They seem like they got everything together, so on and so forth. Yeah, behind the scenes, you don't know what's going on. But you can believe me, there's probably some stuff behind the scenes that's just not there.
And isn't it true? Yes. Oh, Kent, oh my gosh, I love that. I just wrote it down, and that is, and you just ended on something though that to me, I don't want anybody to miss. Everyone has a story. And
yes.
I one of the things I'm really passionate about is, helping empower leaders to be willing to change a label. You can change a life. Meaning many times the people we're struggling with the most, that we've put all these labels on their foreheads, right? Unbeknownst to them. I'm going to challenge everybody out there, Kent. Let's challenge everybody that's listening to this show to say, who is the person that you are struggling with the most? Maybe it's at work, maybe it's in personal life. If you could just for one day change the label because you're creating an entire relationship through the label of how you view them, because you might think that they're very negative or whatever. You've got this label on them. If you're willing to change a label, you can change a life, because you may never know what's going on in their personal life. And especially, right, as you just said, as a leader of others, you never know. They could be going through a lot of personal challenges. And if you're willing to just change a label, you can change a life. And it's that quote that Mr. Rogers used to carry around in his pocket. Do you know that quote?
No.
You're going to love this. You're going to love this. I love to share this. And this one is, he used to carry around a little quote in his pocket that said, if you knew there isn't a person you couldn't love if you knew their story.
Wow. Yes.
Right?
I'm raising my hand to that one. Absolutely. Yes.
So I think that sums up our entire little conversation here, because you are just living the servanthood leadership. You're all about your people. And I just know there will be people, if they would like to reach out. Kent, how best would you like them to reach out if they want to learn more about you, ask you questions? What works for you? Can you please tell everybody?
Sure. They can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. It's, KWNFX. So that is how you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or just search for my name, Kent Williams. I'm always willing to talk and help others. I feel so strongly about helping others that, I will spend time with anyone. I may know them for years, or I may know them for a couple days, but, I'm always willing to help. And I think we're here to help each other, in life. And that's the purpose for me. Mm-hmm. I think God put me here to help others. And I think he put all of us here to help each other. That's how we we work better together. I'm a firm believer in that.
And as I'm listening to you, you know what? You gave me the nickname years ago when we were together and first met, and you said, "You're my sensei." And I'm thinking, you know what? You're the sensei, my friend. You are our world sensei. I'm just listening to you going, you're the one that gets that.
Oh, thank you. I'm humbled again that you say these things. But again, I just have so many people who have helped me throughout my life that have brought me to be who I am today. And my mom and my dad, and definitely my wife. Those three have been the biggest influencers in my life. And I'm grateful to each of them for all that they've given to me and poured into me and dealt with my backstage stuff. It's just, I just owe it all to them. And everything that I do, I give thanks to them.
Oh, you are just, well, thank you. Thank you for being here and allowing me the honor and privilege of celebrating you, my friend. And I can't wait for the world to get to hear this because you are a gift. And I thank you. I can't wait to talk to you soon. Okay.
Oh, ditto. Really. I love talking to you, Holly. You are amazing. And yes, you have inspired me and needless many others. So we are grateful for you and all you contribute in just showing up in this life. So thank you.
Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly, though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.